is going on in our country? What is going on? That we seem to lack the ability to call a spade a spade. Then I heard someone put to me earlier today, well, did Mr. Cargill not do some good at national insurance? I said, what that got to do with it? What that got to do with it? But there are people who believe, because they support the Free National Movement, that because Mr. Cargill was appointed by Mr. Ingram, that Mr. Cargill should be untouchable.
When I was a boy, you couldn't be on ZS as an announcer? Right?
No?
The first black announcer was Cine Evans. That's around 1956. Mm. So the changes we have made now, you know, we ain't perfect,
but tremendous strides have been made.
Yeah.
Yes. But even with the tremendous strides made, we have not been able to do some things with the redevelopment of Over the Hill. As I said on radio, Baintown, Grantstown, Angliston, they are more densely populated, and there are more social challenges now, Bishop Thompson,
yeah,
than back then.
Yes.
And so in terms of social reconstruction or social development, we've not done well. We've not met the challenges of social development, have we?
No, urban renewal is trying to do something now. But as you said, the poor pockets are more deprived. They are more marginalized, even more dehumanized than let's say 30, 40 years ago.
BTC would have nothing to do with the founding of that, or the control over it is clearly, decidedly in the hands of the government. The government will appoint, without question, the overriding, they will control that, no question about that. In addition, I have reason to believe that some lawyers who are partial to the opposition of the day has been saying they want to know who is the founder of the foundation, because the founder under the law, the founder of the foundation, may have certain rights to dissolve the foundation. I want to be in public to know cable and wireless has nothing to do with the founding of this foundation. This is a Bahamian thing.
I'm not criticizing the police at all, or even saying that. I'm saying that it is ideal for the system to work where there is clear information flow rather than blocks. So rather than charging somebody where there's going to be a block or an incomplete file, we would like to see a charge happen when we can be sure that the process will flow, information will flow, resulting in swift justice.
I think, Mr. Jones, it's a little unfair to put on the police something that our predecessors may have allowed them to get away with. And when I say that, until the functionary, the legal functionary, asserts his or her authority, the other people who are involved in the system may well believe that they are being allowed to do what they're doing.
Well, they're doing the best they can.
And they're doing it in the absence of the leadership that is required. And we're providing that leadership now. And I think that that should give comfort to the public, both to the people who are accused and those who are victims.
Hold on a second. Would cause the economy to deteriorate.
No.
Because you're getting
not at all. Right, but let me just one more issue in terms of setting the framework. The government has come up, as I understand it, with a four-pronged approach, which I believe is quite right. Because remember, tax reform is not a panacea of and by itself. One, we've got to collect existing taxes. Mm-hmm. Two, we've got to shrink the size of government and cut government spending.
Right.
Three, we need alternative revenue sources, and 4, and this is critical, the only way we're going to get ourselves out of these deficits is if we grow the economy. That's the 4-point plan.
Right.
Okay?
Makes sense, right?
It makes perfect sense,
Right.
right? Makes perfect sense if they do all 4.
Internal audit says every quarter, every year, the problems with BC, the anomalies, what we need to change, you give it to management, it's placed in a drawer, never discussed. Does not happen. All the reports, what we have done, we have compiled all the reports over the last several years, given it to this local consulting company to extract all of that information, put it to us that makes sense, give them the whole board, the high apparatus of BEC from top to bottom. What changes we need to make this place more efficient, more proficient, to make it more realistic to the real world that we live in, to make it cater to the Bahamian people who owns it, the public. And we're going to reorganize BEC if we can from top to bottom.
But our economy is integrated increasingly to this complex global economy. I think that we have to educate our population and educate ourselves to appreciate that we are competing not with Bahamians. We are competing with people in India, in China, in the United States, and so on. When I served as Attorney General and I was negotiating with the FATF to get the Bahamas off the monitoring list, that is, we had been listed, then they took us, but they kept us on a monitoring list. Then they threatened to put us back. And I'll never forget, I went to Paris and met with the representatives, and someone when we talk, at one point in our presentation, we're talking about being a small country with limited resources. You know, one of the representatives from the U.S. Treasury Department, you know what he said? He said, well, get out of financial services. If
you get the resources, you get the human resources.
If you don't have the resources, then get out.
Yeah.
The regulation of web shop gaming in the Bahamas, that it ought to be taxed. I read a piece out of Bermuda the other day. The Prime Minister or the Premier of Bermuda is saying that they're not going to a referendum. They're going straight to the Parliament. Wasn't it a mistake on the part of your government not to do that?
Well, it was a mandate of the Prime Minister to do so.
Yes.
However, however, there is nothing to say that still cannot be done.
It can still be done.
Why not?
Is the government minded to do it, you think?
It's just legislation.
Are you going to do it?
I'm not the Prime Minister.
No, you are part of the cabinet.
No,
but the Prime Minister is only the first among equals.
But
I'm not the Prime Minister. You are a member of the government of the Bahamas.
I could tell you my personal...
we don't have a presidential system where the Prime Minister, by edict, tells you what you're going to do. We have a government.
No, but that operates on consensus.
Yes.
Right? That operates on consensus.
Right.
I can tell you what my personal opinion is. My personal opinion is, sure. But you got to do it. If you make that decision, you have to do it in a properly mandated and framed way. Why? You have anti-money laundering regulations and rules that you have to abide by. You have proper gaming regulations that you have to abide by. The operations that you see today can no longer exist. You would have to have properly run, regulated, and compliant domestic casinos. Digital casinos, like you see in London. You go to London, you walk around London. You have the same thing there, right? It would have to be a properly framed industry. You could no longer operate as a web shop, and that's my opinion, because there's too many regulatory risks.
A tourism destinations are not resort campuses by themselves. It's the collective development of any destination. And so a lot of collaborative work and support needs to be put in place to places like downtown, historic centers, places of interest that tourists want to see. And if we can ever garner the will to work collectively to put some support and philanthropy behind the upliftment of some of these areas, it will only go a long way in enhancing the Bahamas and New Providence as a destination that tourists will flock to for years to come. And I think places like the cruise ships must play their part, retail on Bay Street must play their part, Bahamian citizens must also play their part.
As we celebrate the 20th anniversary of Love 97, we owe a sincere thanks to Almighty God, who has given us the strength and the wisdom to continue these broadcasts over the last 20 years. And we also thank the hard-working members of staff of Love 97 from 1994 to 2014 for their work and the way they have performed over the last 20 years. The future is bright, and as this country embarks on the journey that it is on, we want to remain on the cutting edge of technology, and we shall take our listeners to peaks of broadcast excellence which were unimaginable even 2 years ago. And with God's continued blessings and favor on us, we shall always be striving towards the mark of the high calling in broadcast excellence. We have a passion for excellence in the Jones Communications Network. We thank our listeners, we thank our viewers, and hopefully through this medium of radio, indeed television, as we continue to move forward, we will help in the transformation of our country, the Bahamas, for the better. I'm Wendell Jones. Thanks again. Good evening, everyone.